Our congregants in the shul where Rabbi Kimche was the Rav for 25 years in London. The congregation was the Ner Yisrael congregation in London. Some of you already know him. In the source of having his son JJ here in the yeshiva. He's here a few years, in the army here. But I wanted to tell you something special about Rabbi Kimche. Yerushalmi in Kedushin, in the first parak, has a statement of Rav Gidel. Gidel says that if you're going to quote a halacha or any teaching from any of your rabbanim, you have to picture your Rav standing right there in front of you. You have to picture him. Otherwise, you're not allowed to tell us his teaching. You can tell us your own thought, and it has whatever ramifications of who you are. But in order to invoke the authority and the significance of who you're quoting, you have to picture them standing right before you. Rabbi Kimche was zocheh to be in front of Rav Shlomo Zalman Auerbach Zatzal, Rav Chaim Shmulevitz Zatzal, Rav Yeshua Neuber, and have any conversation with him. The quotes, the stories, the lessons they imparted to him just flow out, and you could see and sense that he sees their Dmus standing before him when he quotes from them. Those who came on Hoshana Rabbah to the yeshiva's event there in Heichal Shlomo, Rav Kimche spoke, and Derech Agav just brought up, and I saw Rav Elia Lopian, little story. His whole life, everything, every conversation, I was looking to sit next to him at a wedding of a Gush alumnus a few weeks ago, and stories, or Shlomo Zalman, or Chaim Shmulevitz. This is Kol Kulo, and you get the sense that that's who he has right in front of him. And therefore, we are lucky to have him here to address us on our topic here today. Without further ado, Rabbi Kimche.
Thank you very much for the introduction. A few familiar faces here, many others as well. It's wonderful to be here in the yeshiva, and I enjoyed immensely listening to Rosh Yeshiva speaking about the power of Talmud Torah. And I'd like to pick up really where he left off. Indeed, the learning of Torah, if it's done properly, is not an academic experience. The learning of Torah is a transformational experience, and after you've been immersed in Talmud Torah and been in the company of Talmidei Chachamim, you're a different person. It's not just that you've gained some information, gained some skills, gained some data. That's what happens in college, that's what happens in university. You come out with information you didn't know beforehand. In the yeshiva, the learning of Torah is something else completely. And it takes a bit of a while to realize that. Because one can think that it's simply a study. You know, there is, for example, in universities, there are Jewish study departments where they study seemingly the same texts as we study in yeshiva. They may have in front of them the same text, but what they're doing is not what we're doing. What we're doing in the yeshiva is Talmud Torah, and what they're doing is Jewish study. And the two have got almost nothing to do with each other at all. Because the learning of Torah is, as your Rosh Yeshiva explained and touched on beautifully, has within it certain powers which engage your leiv and your moyach, and ultimately engage your neshama. The neshama of a member of Klal Yisrael is somehow triggered off and enhanced by engaging in Torah, And even if you forget the details, in years to come, you might forget the details of this Tosfos or that Tosfos or this Sugya or that Sugya, but the effect of the learning is never lost. Now, I'd like to just speak a little bit about this and give you a bit of an insight into how this works. And there are, in fact, 3 reasons to learn Torah. There are 3 reasons. And because there are 3 reasons to learn Torah, there are, in fact, 3 different types of shiurim that you will listen to here in this yeshiva, and you'll listen to, in fact, your whole life. I'm going to give you a checklist of these 3 different types of shiurim, and every time you go to a shiur, from now on, for the rest of your life, when you come out of the shiur, you're going to have to tick one of the boxes. It was either a type A shiur, or a type B shiur, or a type C shiur, or it was a waste of time. Maybe it was a waste of time. Either because you didn't understand the teacher, or whether the teacher didn't understand you, or maybe you just weren't on the wavelength, maybe you were schluffing. There could be lots of reasons why it was a waste of time. But there are 3 different types of learning, and these 3 types of learning reflect 3 different reasons to learn Torah. And in fact, in order to maybe just give you a way of understanding this, I'm going to base it in a tefillah that we say every day, every morning of our life. We say this tefillah. Avo Rabbi. Avtanu Hashem Elokeinu. And then we say, Avinu Malkeinu Ba'avura V'Seinu Shebatchu V'cho V'Talamdeim Chukei Chaim. The first type of shiur is a shiur of Chukei Chaim. Chukei Chaim means how to live, the do's and don'ts, the moral and immoral, the issur v'heta, how to engage with life. But Talamdeim Chukei Chaim. Incidentally, Parshas Lech Lecha is the beginning of that. Right? Before that, there weren't really any Chukei Chaim. Chazal give us a Maseira of Sheva Mitzvahs B'nei Noach. But Sheva Mitzvahs B'nei Noach are simply a minimal moral code for mankind. They're not really Chukei Chaim, how to live a life of Avodas Hashem, how to live a life following the rules that HaKadosh Baruch Hu wants to put down. It's only with Avraham Avinu and Parshas Lech Lecha that suddenly he gets the Bris Milah. And with the Bris Milah starts, if you like, Halachic Judaism. Begins with the Bris Milah. And with that, there are 2 things that accompany the Bris Milah. First of all, there is Vayisi Lecha Le'Elokim. Suddenly the connection to HaKadosh Baruch Hu is a personal connection. Prior to Avraham Avinu, HaKadosh Baruch Hu was the Borei Olam. And he was the yesod of nature, and he was the source of all being, but he didn't have a kesher ishit, didn't have a personal connection with any human being. Suddenly, the Etenet Brisi Beini Uveinecha, the language in Parshas Lech Lecha, and Avraham Avinu, Chazal say, is something which is far beyond the Borei Olam. It's personal. It's a connection. That's the first thing that you get in the Chukei Chaim. And the second thing, interestingly, which is subject really for a separate shiur, is Eretz Yisrael. Because of the Bris Milah, the Chol, the Zarcha, Charecha, I will give this land, the land of Eretz Yisrael. If anybody ever asks you, where is the first time that we find that the Jewish people have a claim to Eretz Yisrael, the answer is Lech Lecha. That's the first time that Avraham Avinu is told it, and he's told it in what connection? With the beginning of Chukei Chaim. So the Chukei Chaim are, HaKadosh Baruch Hu requires of us to live a certain type of life, certain type of behavior. That's what Chukei Chaim is about. It's about deeds. It's not actually about the moyach. It's not about our understanding. It's a way of living. Chukei Chaim. Right? And indeed, this is type A of a shiur that you will go to in your life. Type A of a session of learning Torah. You'll sit down and you'll learn Hilchos Tefillah, Hilchos Basar B'Cholov, Hilchos Yom Kippur. You'll learn Chukei Chaim. That is a type of shiur. If you can come out of a shiur and you've learned one halacha, that's it. You can tick the box A. That is the Chukei Chaim, that is the type of learning, and that already connects us to HaKadosh Baruch Hu in a personal. Suddenly, we are Asay Ritzono Ki Ritzonecha, we are using the Ratzon Hashem as our Ratzon. We're going to do what He wants us to do, and there's nothing more personal than that. I'm going to be speaking, if I have time later on, about a little bit about the Maharal in Prague. So one of the Sforim the Maharal in Prague wrote was called Tiferes Yisrael. And in the first 8 chapters of Tiferes Yisrael is the most brilliant description of what does it do to a person to do a mitzvah. To do a mitzvah is not just to follow a rule, but actually it does something to the neshama of a person. You're not the same person anymore. And indeed, in the bracha that we make before mitzvahs, we use the phrase Asher Kiddushanu b'mitzvosov. The bracha is not just about the doing of the mitzvah, it's about the kedusha of the doing of the mitzvah, which is a whole different dimension. And that's transformational, and that's type A. But then Abba Rabba continues and says, Avinu Abba Rachman Amrachim Rachim Aleinu, V'sein B'libeinu, Hovin, Haskil, Shmoya, Lulba, a list of 8 qualities. The primary among these 8 is Lahovin and Lahaskil. The second type of shir, the second type of learning has actually got nothing to do with Chukei Chaim. As the Rosh Hashiva said, you're learning Baba Basra. You're unlikely to find in Baba Basra, in the halachas, in Hilchas Shchenim, Chukei Chaim which apply to you on a day-to-day basis, or even ever in your life. It's unlikely that people who are not going to be engaging in Rabbanos with Ayanas will ever have to paskan a halacha on my boy Bahai Ara, what is your claim to this land? To judge different claims to the land. So why are we learning this? So this is a question that Rosh Hashiva was dealing with. It's a very, very profound and interesting question. What is it about Talmud Torah, the lahavin or lahaskil of Torah, without any practical application at all? For people who've never been to a yeshiva, it's very difficult to explain what you're doing. Have you ever tried this? I wish you the best of luck. But if you have, I don't know, a relative or a friend who's culturally distant from learning Torah, and they say, well, what did you learn today in the Beis HaMedrash? And you try and explain the Tosfos about, legal claims to land ownership. So they'll say, well, wait a minute, this is just basically, you're just taking a law degree. You're studying laws about land ownership and conflicting claims to ownership of a piece of land, and what is chazaka, all these sort of things. What's that going to do with Rebbeinu? What's that going to do with Judaism? Why is that a transforming experience? Why is that? This is a very, very interesting question. And the answer is there is something about learning Torah. That when you're engaging in learning Torah, you're not just learning academic law. You're not. You're learning the thought patterns of the Rebbeinu. This is a very deep idea, which takes a long time to grasp. But you're learning how does HaKadosh Baruch Hu think about the world. That's what we're learning about. And by learning about it, you're actually shaping your own grey cells. You're shaping your own thought patterns. Such that when you come out of learning, you've been immersed in learning for days, for weeks, for months, for years, you come out and you have a certain way of thinking about life, which is actually based on the thought patterns of the Torah, which is the Ki'ilu, Kaviyachol, is the mind of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. And that is something which transforms a human being completely, but that's only if we engage in Lahovim or Lahaskim. The deeper you can go into it, the deeper you can understand the Svara. What's the Svara? What's the Kasha of Tosfos? What is the Teretz of Tosfos? And what changed between the Kasha and the Teretz? What changed? Michael Sava or Michael Mashmala? What was the Nakuda? What was the Svara which Tosfos thought in the beginning, which changed in the Teretz? And if there's a second Teretz of Tosfos, what was wrong with the first one? But the second one somehow manages to clarify this deep level of svara, this deep level of iyun, which you have the privilege of learning here in this wonderful yeshiva. This can transform your way of thinking. And you're coming out, you haven't just learned Hilchos Shchenim, you haven't just learned Hilchos Chazaka, Cheskas Abatim. You've learned how does HaKadosh Baruch Hu want us to think. So type A is a shir of Chukei Chaim, how HaKadosh Baruch Hu wants us to behave. Type B is a type of shir which teaches us how does HaKadosh Baruch Hu want us to think. What are our thought patterns? What is the way we assess life? How do we look at life? How do we analyze life? How do we analyze ourselves? This is lahavin, ulahaskil, lishmoya, lilma, lalamed, lishma, velasus, and kayim. It's true, it is connected to the kayim, but that's not the essence of it. Incidentally, just as a footnote here, in terms of the mitzvah of Talmud Torah for women, type A, there's a full chiyuv for women to learn Torah of type A, of Chukei Chaim. But there isn't a chiyuv for women to learn type B of Havin or Haskell. They don't have that chiyuv. If they do it, they're doing a mitzvah. But they don't have that chiyuv. If you have a look in the Mishnah Berurah, in the Shulchan Aruch, in Hilchos Brachos, I think it's Siman Mem Zayin, Mem Ches, which speaks about Birkas HaTorah. So the Shulchan Aruch paskins, women have an equal chiyuv to say Birkas HaTorah as men do. And the Meforshim ask, why is that? Why should a woman say Birkas HaTorah in the morning if she doesn't have the chiyuv of Talmud Torah? And many of the Meforshim say, the Garner mentions, because since she has the chiyuv to learn Torah of Chukei Chaim, she needs to learn how to keep kashrut, how to keep Shabbos, right? How to keep Taras HaMishpacha. She needs to know how to keep Yom Kippur and how to keep Pesach. She needs to learn Torah because she needs to know what to do. She has a full chiyuv to learn Torah, to know what to do. Therefore, she makes a bracha, Birkas HaTorah. A man has got an additional chiyuv of a different type of Talmud Torah, which is called lahavin or lahaskil, type B, where you attain the svaras of the Torah, the thought patterns of the Torah. And that can transform a person's mind. And then you get to the third most remarkable form of Talmud Torah. And that is v'ha'er eineinu b'seiroseh. V'dabek libeinu b'mitzvoseh. And all this, tomorrow morning, please God, when you say Avo Rabbah before Kriya Shema, say it a little bit slower than usual. Let's do it for 15 seconds instead of 10 seconds. And try and think about this year, what I'm saying to you now. Try and follow it through. Starts with the Chukei Chaim, then it's Lahavin and Haskell, and then it's V'ho'er Eineinu Serosecho V'dabek Libeinu Mitzvosecho. It's about Dveikus, as Rosh Hashiva spoke about. It's about Dveikus, as Rabbi Chaim Volozhin speaks about in Nefesh HaChaim Shal Dalet. That through learning Torah you can attain a certain type of Dveikus, and that's very difficult to explain. Chaim Volozhin has to use all types of the terminology of the Mekubolim in order to explain it, and I'm not going to go into that for the moment. But one thing I can say, I want you to focus for a minute on this phrase, what does that mean? So that's got to do with light. Let me talk about that just for one moment. If you've learned Parshas Bereishis just recently, right? 2 weeks ago you learned Parshas Bereishis. So one is struck by the fact, what is created on day one? Only light, nothing else. Nothing else is created but light. Asks Rashi, but wait a minute. We know what light is, and the solar system is only created on day 4. So what sort of light is being described on day 1? How did the world have light without a solar system? A pshat question when you're learning Sheshis and Bereishis. What sort of light is this? Rashi brings down, very briefly, there's a lot of material both in the Medrash and in the Zohar, a lot of material about this, says that actually the light of day 1 was hidden, and it's referred to by Chazal as Or Hagonuz, the hidden light. Right? Why was it hidden? Because the light was a light of Ruchnis, was a light that transformed people into spiritual beings. And that was hidden away because the Kadosh Baruch Hu decided that the world was not ra'ui to have that light. And Rashi says, where did it go, that light? It went Olam Haba. And indeed, in the Gemara, one Brachos, which speaks about what is Olam Haba. We don't know much about what is Olam Haba, but the phrase used by Chazal is Tzadikim Yoshvim, V'Torosehem B'Roshehem, V'Nehenim Miziv Hashchina. Ziv is light. Ziv is radiance. The Ziv Hashchina was the light that was created on day one, was the Or HaGonus. That was the light, which was then hidden away. And then the light that we're familiar with, the light from luminous bodies, is the light of day 4. That's the light of the solar system. Right? But Chazal say, it's true that light was hidden away, but there were moments, and there were certain mechanisms that Kadosh Baruch Hu brought into the world, which allowed certain rays of that light to come into this world. So for example, the Medrash speaks about Aloischas HaNeiros, that Aaron HaKohen, when he lit the menorah in the Beis HaMikdash, the light that came from the menorah wasn't the light of ordinary radiance that we're familiar with. It wasn't the light of physics. It was the light of Yom Rishon. And that's why Chazal had this phrase, Yerushalayim Oiroi Shel Olam. Why was Yerushalayim Oiroi Shel Olam? Because everybody who came into Yerushalayim, when there was a Beis HaMikdash, the first thing they felt was that the light here is different. There's something different about this light. The light from the menorah came out through the windows of the Beis HaMikdash, and the whole city was Oiroi Shel Olam. There was light. The second thing that they noticed was the fragrance of the Keteris. So you can imagine visiting, when you went to Aliyah L'Regel to Yerushalayim, imagine that you were immersed for Yom Tov in the light and the fragrance, and you came out a different person. Because the oil of the oil of Yom Rishon had that particular power. Says the Zohar, and that's what this tefillah is based on. The ha'er ineinu b'seirosecha. So Kadosh Baruch Hu hid the light of Day Rishon in the Torah. The Torah contains a potential or, potential light. And indeed in a few different places the Gemara speaks about there's Talmud Torah and there's Oiro Shel Torah. Oiro Shel Torah is the effect it has on us. The Lahavin or Lahaskil is the way our brain perceives the ideas of the Torah, the svaros of the Torah. But the Oiro Shel Torah already goes straight to the Neshama. That's already Dabik Libeinu L'Tzoiseh. When we have a tefillah regularly, right? One of the things the Kohanim say to us every day, Yo'er Hashem Pono Milecha V'Chanecha. What is that light of Yo'er? That light is the light of Yom Rishon, which is buried in the Torah. And if one is immersed in it, you feel you're in a different place. As was mentioned by my very, very warm introduction, which I'm very grateful. Indeed, when you're in the presence of, if you ever get a chance to be in the presence of Gedolei Yisrael, one of the reasons one comes to a yeshiva is to be in the presence of people like your Rosh Yeshiva and Talmidei Chachamim here in this Beis HaMedrash, that their lives are really, they're living on a different wavelength. And I remember very clearly spending many years in the presence of Rosh Shlomo Zalman Auerbach, Zecher Tzadik Livracha, and you felt that he was completely a normal human being and very easy to talk to and a real mensch, but he was actually on a different planet. He was living somewhere else. And when he made a bracha, I remember once the father of one of the boys of the yeshiva came, this was like the top shiur in Kol Torah, so Shlomo Zalman gave the shiur on a daily basis, and one of the fathers of one of the boys who wasn't himself learned wanted to come in and sit in on the shiur, came in and sat in. I could see he didn't really understand what was going on in the shiur at all. He sat in and just wanted to sit in the shiur. So I asked him afterwards, did you enjoy it? So he says to me, to be frank, I didn't understand what he was saying. But when he made a shahakal near bidvara on his glass of tea, because I've never heard a shahaka like that before. I've never heard before a shahaka like that. Not that he wasn't shouting about his shahaka, but he just said it in a way that he was speaking to the Rabbi Shalom. And if you were tuned into him, you could pick that up. A simple bracha. That was the giveaway. This guy was a simple learned person, but he felt it. And that was not the lahovin or the haskell. So this fellow who came into the shir didn't get any chukei chayim from the shir, and he didn't get any lahovin or haskell from the shir. But he got type C. He got hoyer in. He felt for a moment the orosh of Torah. And that's what we learn, for example, when you sit and learn Musa, you learn Hashkafa, even when you learn Tanakh properly, you're not getting Chukei Chayim, and often you're not getting Lahavin or Haskell, but you are getting the Hoyri Neinus. You're getting some of the light out of the Torah, and that is something which is priceless. And so there are three reasons to learn Torah: to know how to behave, to know how to think, and to light up your neshama. Those are the three reasons. And every day you should engage in a bit of each. And that will transform you over time. I must say, looking back on all my years of Rabbonis, I've met maybe thousands of Jewish people, maybe hundreds of Rabbonim, and there are lots of different categories and different types of people, obviously. And one of the most, there are some people who are Shomrei Mitzvahs and some people who aren't Shomrei Mitzvahs. Okay? But there's another category, and that is there are some people who are in learning their whole life. And there are other people who aren't, even among Rabbonim. Even among Rabbonim, colleagues of mine who are Rabbonim of Kehillas, but some of them are just Rabbonim of Kehillas, and they are basically administrators and social workers and organizers, and they'll say a vort every now and again in the drasha, but they're not in learning. They're not immersed in learning on a daily basis. And other Rabbonim are. And the difference is Yomum V'Layla. The difference between someone who is in learning his whole life and someone who isn't, the difference is Yomum V'Layla. And that should be your aspirations. Here in Yeshiva, to pick up some of the Chukei Chayim, to learn some halachas, to pick up some of the svaros, to engage in the Hoyre Neinu Seresecha, and to have the goal. And the goal is that every day of your life, to connect to Talmud Torah as much as you possibly can. And different, of course, different lifestyles and different activities. I think there's going to be a panel about this. I'm not involved in the panel, but it is something which should be at least a goal. You've got to have a goal in life, and that's what the yeshiva should give you. And maybe, who knows, maybe this first year, for those of you who are first year boys, but I came to yeshiva, I must tell you, with an intention to stay 1 year. But I thought it was fantastic. I enjoyed it so much. I asked my father for a second year. And after the second year, I asked him for a third year. Right? And so on and so forth. Throughout the 1970s, which of course for you gentlemen is ancient history, you probably think there were horses and carts in the street in the 1970s. No, we didn't have cars. We didn't have any cell phones. We didn't have any internet. You can imagine that, right? But in the 1970s, I spent about 10 years in yeshiva here in Yerushalayim, both with Shlomo Zalman Zichron Livracha and later on with Reb Chaim Shmulevitz. And during that time, I was really on a different planet. Later on, I went to university, my first degree, got my doctorate at London University, but the transformation that I had in the yeshiva life, in the yeshiva world, and having contact with Talmidei Chachamim was something completely priceless. Instead, just a footnote, that when I moved from years of yeshiva into university, one of my difficulties was that I was accustomed to learning in a roaring Beis HaMedrash. The Beis HaMedrash was talking and yelling and shouting at each other, and that was the Beis HaMedrash. And then you come to university, you come to college, and you sit in the library, and it's a graveyard. It's a completely dead silence. I could never get used to it. I could never get used to the silence in the library. I used to go and take my books and sit in the cafeteria and do my work there just to get the noise, because I was so accustomed to having the noise in the background. That was just something which was a little bit different. How much time do I have?
You have another 20.
I do another 20 minutes?
20.
Okay, so let's spend another 20 minutes. Let's have a look at something, which maybe you haven't seen before. Would you mind taking one and pass it around? Could you maybe also take one and pass it around? Maybe the third guy, maybe take one and pass it around, please. While it's being passed around, I'll give you a brief introduction. The Maharal of Prague is probably a name that you've heard of, and unlikely that you've learned much of his writings. His writings are not easy to understand, and you need a Rabbi to teach you. There's more text here for those people who didn't get a text. Oh, there's more in the back there. Can you give me more? Thank you very much. Let me just give you a 5-minute intro to the Maharal of Prague. So the Maharal lives in the 16th century. In the 16th century, lots and lots of changes were taking place, to the extent that the historians call the 16th century the Renaissance period. And Renaissance means reborn, right? And the reborn in the sense, this in terms of secular culture, the whole of Europe was reborn in the 16th century. Everything changed. Everything changed. Science changed, history, geography changed, right? They discovered America and settled America. The science changed, Galileo and Copernicus, and the changes in the way people saw the world. Right? They said Galileo, the legend about Galileo is that in the 16th century he made his own telescope, because you couldn't buy telescopes. He made the telescope, he put it to his eye, he looked at the moon. And he said, wow. Maybe he didn't say wow. He would have said wow. He said, it's a rock. The moon is a rock. Who knew that? Everybody thought, from Aristotle all the way to Galileo, everybody thought the moon moves. If the moon moves, it must be alive. It must be a creature of some sort. Because we know the world, and only live creatures move. Inanimate objects like rocks don't move. And therefore, they believed that all the celestial beings were all alive. That was the belief of Aristotle. That was the belief even among many of the Rishonim, that the moon was alive, was a living being. Galileo looked at it and said, it's a rock. Suddenly, the worldview, everybody's worldview of nature changed. Everything changed. Then he had to say, well, if it's a rock, how come it moves? So he had to explain, he had to devise and understand the laws of gravity, the laws of the orbit, the laws of momentum. And once something starts moving, unless there's something to stop it, it will continue moving forever. The concept of momentum, no one ever heard any of these ideas before. A complete revolution in the way the world was understood, in the way everything was understood. That was Galileo, Copernicus, don't need to tell you. Right? Earth goes around the sun instead of the sun going around the earth. All this was part of the Renaissance. The world was being looked at in nature. In the Jewish world, there were also major revolutions. And the Jewish people started looking at the world differently. I'll give you two major examples of that. The first is the Arizal in Tzfat in the 1500s changed the way we look at the world. Changed the way Jews look at Judaism, the way Jews practice Judaism. Everything was changed in the 16th century by the Arizal, Moshe Cordovero, and other Mekubolim in Tzfat, that they taught Klal Yisrael to look at the Torah and mitzvahs through the eyes of the Kabbalah. Was a complete revolution. And even our simple practices changed, right? The fact that we start Ma'ariv on Friday nights with Kabbalah's Shabbos, that was unheard of before the 16th century. Friday night, people used to come together to have a Ma'ariv, and they started with Baruch Hu. That's how Jews lived until the 16th century. We started with Baruch Hu. That was it. There was no Kabbalah Shabbos. the Arizal, the Kabbalim, decided that it has to be done differently. We need to get into Shabbos, to get into the Ruach of Shabbos, we need to bring in the Kedusha of Shabbos, and hence Kabbalah Shabbos, the Chodeidik, Shalom Aleichem, all these things that for us are normal parts of life, all started only in the 16th century. The other major revolution in Jewish life was, of course, the Shulchan Aruch. Was written and printed in the 16th century, and suddenly halacha was standardized. That's a subject for a whole different year, what a revolution that was for whole of Jewish life. So there was a lot going on in the 16th century, right? We also Cairo and the Ramah, and the Arizal, and in Tzfat, the Ramah in Krakow, we also Cairo also in Tzfat, right? And then there was Prague. Prague was a center of secular studies. It was the capital of the Bohemian Empire, and it was also a center of Torah. And the Maharal created also a revolution. His revolution was, how do we learn Medrash and Haggadah? That was his main revolution. And all his Sfarim. Right? He wrote many, many Sfarim. 10 of them are very famous for us, the Gur Aryeh and Rashi, Tiferes Yisrael, Netzach Yisrael, the Nesivos Olam, all these different Sfarim. Every single one of them, without exception, every chapter, starts with a Medrash Chazal. And that Medrash Chazal means however you understand Medrash simply. And then the Maharal starts drilling deeper into the words of Chazal and seeing in the words of Chazal the beauty, the brilliance, the complexity of the hashkafa of Chazal. Chazal didn't write philosophy. Instead of writing philosophy, they wrote Medrash. In the Medrash is coded into the Medrash all the principles of Jewish philosophy, rational philosophy and mystical philosophy. It's all there in the Medrash. You have to know how to read it. Again, we've just gone through Parshas Bereshis. I'll give you just a 1-minute taster of what I'm talking about. So some midrashim are childish. When I say childish, I mean they're written in a way that sound a little bit childish. The Medrash says at the beginning of Bereshis that when HaKadosh Baruch Hu created the world, Bereshis bara Elokim, the letter Aleph came to HaKadosh Baruch Hu to complain. Why did you start the Torah with the Beis? I'm the Aleph. You start with me. Why did you start with the Beis? So every thinking human being understands that that's a childish image, almost a cartoon image. Right? The letter Aleph coming along and grumbling. What's going on here? So you've got a choice here. Either you can say, well, Chazal said silly things, or you can say, Chazal are using simplistic literary style to express the most profound philosophical beliefs. What is the answer of the Medrash? HaKadosh Baruch Hu answers to the Aleph. What does he answer? Anybody know? The answer is, don't worry. When it comes to Har Sinai and the Aseres HaDibros, I'll start with you. Onochi Hashem Elokecha. That's the answer. So what is Medrash talking about? So if you understand the Midrash contain very profound philosophical ideas, you'll understand. Now what this Medrash means is that even though Brias HaOlam chronologically preceded Matan Torah, right? Even though it was before Matan Torah by about 2,500 years earlier, Brias HaOlam, nevertheless, Matan Torah was the Aleph. Aleph here means it was the primary goal of HaKadosh Baruch Hu was Matan Torah, and the creation of the universe was his secondary goal. So the secondary goal, a bit like the peel around the fruit. The main goal of the fruit is the fruit. But the peel you come to first. You first come to that which is secondary in significance, but primary in chronology. And that's what's happened here with the Aleph and the Beis. So this is just a very small, simple example about how a Medrash means much more than it does at first sight. The Maharal was a genius and completely revolutionized our understanding of Midrash and Chazal. What I brought you here is a few lines from the Sivha Torah. Can you see this? The page in front of you. In the Sivha Torah, this is actually photocopied on both sides, but I'm looking at page 1. So the Sivha Torah, he's looking at the difference between the secular wisdom and Torah wisdom. And he starts off with the bracha of the Gemara Maseches Brachos. There's a bracha you make if you meet a Nobel Prize winning scientist. If you meet a world-class scientist, you make a bracha. You say, you wish him, you say hello. You say, it's nice to meet you. And then you say, Baruch atah Hashem Elokeinu melech haolam, shenosam mechachmosei lebasar v'dam. You praise HaKadosh Baruch Hu that He has given an abundance of wisdom and knowledge to human beings. But, says the Gemara in Brachos Nemches, v'horoya chachmei Yisrael, if you see a great Talmud Chacham, if you meet somebody who is one of the Geodei Hadar, you say, Baruch atah Hashem Elokeinu melech haolam, shecholak mechachmoso liyirei. Now the word Chochma appears both in one bracha and in the other bracha. In other words, there is Chochma of Torah and there's the Chochma of secular sciences. Right? But the difference is, Uma hefresh ben zeh lezeh, asks in line 3. Aber hefresh hayesh ben zeh lezeh ki loshan nesino mashma'enu min etzem ha'chochma she'er Hashem yisborach. With regards to the scientist, it's shenosam mechochma. So HaKadosh Baruch Hu gave him a gift. A gift is something you give, which is not, you're not giving yourself. You're giving something external to yourself. It's simply a gift which you're giving to the recipient receives something, an item which you want to give him as a favor. But he says, ki ha'umos, in the 4th line, Omar aleihem borach shenosam mechachmosel lebasar v'dam, ki b'meh shehem basar v'dam chamorim ishpiek Hashem yisbarach lehem chachma. HaKadosh Baruch Hu gave them wisdom to understand the physical world, to understand the science, the chemistry, the physics, the botany, the medicine of the physical functionings of the universe, the brias, the chochmas haboirei is in the bria, and inside the bria is all the wisdom of, right, which is revealed by science. But it isn't HaKadosh Baruch Hu's thought patterns. This comes back to the point I mentioned earlier. The Torah, HaKadosh Baruch Hu is giving shecholak mechachmosel lebasar v'dam. HaKadosh Baruch Hu is giving us in the Torah, listen to this, a chelek of His wisdom. That's a different gedder, completely. That's a different definition. He's not giving us a wisdom which is external to Him. He's giving us in some sense, again, I have to say kaviyachol, we don't quite know what it means, but there's something about the wisdom of the Torah which is a chelek elokat mima, which is a chelek of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. That's what He's giving us, shecholak bechachmoso, and the end of the bracha is also interesting. He doesn't give it lebasar v'dam, He's giving it liyireya. In other words, Reishis Chochma Yiras Hashem. And in order to acquire the Chochmas Elokim, one needs a certain element of Yiras Shamayim, and that Yiras Shamayim qualifies you to absorb some of those ideas, which are not just academic ideas. They are ideas which are, as he writes, what's his language here? Look at the last line of the first paragraph. The Chochma that we are getting, which we find in the Mishnah, in the Gemara, in the Tanakh, in the writings of Gedolei Yisrael, is not an academic Chochma, it's a Chochma Eliyona or a kiss. It's the ultimate, elevated spiritual wisdom. And that's what I'm skipping to the 3rd paragraph. A famous medrash, some of you might have heard before. If people tell you that the umos ha'olam, the nations of this world, are people who have great wisdom, they've got chachma, tamid, you can believe that. Shenema, etc., etc. If someone will say to you, the goyim, the non-Jewish world, they have understood Torah, al tam. Because Torah is about what? It's about Avodas Hashem, as the Rosh Hashiva said. It's about Cholak Mechachmosa Liyarei. It's about coming close to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. It's about what HaKadosh Baruch Hu says to Avraham Avinu in this week's Parsha, V'etem Brissi Be'nio Veinecha. It's the Brissi Be'nio Veinecha, which is the Kesher, which is the connection, the all-important connection, and that is unique for Klal Yisrael. So the non-Jews can study Jewish studies, and indeed there are many non-Jewish people who do study. If you go to Oxford, there's the Oxford Centre of Jewish Studies. And in the Oxford Centre, it's an Oxford Postgraduate Centre of Jewish Studies. If you ever go there, most of the students there are not Jewish at all. It's not a Jewish place. They're non-Jews. It's a non-Jewish enterprise for studying texts, Talmudic texts, and Mishnaic texts, and one thing or another. They're engaged in academic practice of Jewish studies. They're not engaged in Talmud Torah. Talmud Torah is Shecholak Mechachmosai Liyarei. That's what the Gemara says, and this is what the Maharal is particularly interested in. Then you go to the Rambam. I just want to leave you with paragraph 5, which is interesting. The Maharal was very impressed with science and scientists in the 16th century. And there are many legends about his connection with some astronomers. There was one fellow called Kepler, who was an astronomer in the 16th century. There's someone else called Brahe, B-R-A-H-E, who was an astronomer, where there are legends about the Maharal spending time with them and studying the astronomy of the 16th century. He even had an audience, which tells you something interesting, with Emperor Rudolf. Emperor Rudolf was the emperor of the Habsburg Empire, which was ruled over the whole of Central Europe at the time. And he wanted to speak to the Maharal, because he heard the Maharal had a chachma which was worth his while listening to. But so Maharal says here, paragraph 5, everybody with me, and with this I'll finish. Ve'im kain, he says, mizeh nireh, we can conclude from this piece of Gemara, ki yesh lilmod chachmas ha'omus. You should study secular studies. It's important to study secular studies, and you'll see, I haven't got time to go through the whole thing at the moment. He's talking about science. He wasn't so happy about learning humanities, because he felt humanities already contains values which clash with Torah values. Okay, that's what is subject for debate and discussion, whatever. But he says the chokhmah is almost ki loma lo yilmad ha-chokhmah she'im min Hashem yisborach. Having learned from this Gemara in Brachas, which says you make a bracha, she'nosu mechachmah, clearly this is chokhmah lekis. Because the HaKadosh Baruch Hu put into the Bria, he put the laws of nature, which also reflect the mind of God to a certain extent. This was God's intention. And therefore a knowledge of them is valid knowledge. Nevertheless, he says your main engagement should be in Talmud Torah. So those of you who are planning a future in science, the study of science or whatever it is, medicine or any different type of science, the Maharal says yes, it's a mitzvah to learn the Chochmas Haborei, which is coded in to the natural world, but your main energies should still be put into Torah. Yes, the Haviraya, etc., etc., etc. Okay, I'm a bit short on time. Turn over the page for a second. There is something here I want to show you. The last 2 paragraphs on page 2. He still says, it's very interesting, he's writing this 500 years ago. In the 16th century, the Maharal is telling his students, yes, it's fine to supplement your Torah studies with a knowledge of science. Because science is also Chochmas Haborei, is the wisdom of HaKadosh Baruch Hu implanted in nature. But he says, Om Adayin Tzorich Iyun. I've still got this problem, he says. And this is a problem, it's amazing, it's such a contemporary problem. Also, Lilbo Mirav She'eino Hogun. How can you allow yourself to go to the lecturers in Prague University, right? And to listen to science from them? They're all apikoros. And not only apikoros, they're immoral people. You'll be badly influenced simply by your contact with the scientists, right? They have great knowledge, but not great morals, and not great emunah. Kimche That's the whole subject he deals with. The Meir allowed himself to learn Torah from Acha, even though Acha had become an Apikerus. So then he says in the second line, so he gives a heter here, the most famous heter of the Maharal. He says, don't go and learn personally from the scientists of today. They are all apikosim and menuvolim and people you don't want to be influenced by. Just read their books. If you read their books, you get their chokhmah without having a kesher with it. It's a mirror image, if you like, of what we said before about Talmud Torah. When you're learning Torah, a key to learning Torah is your kesher with the Rebbe. Because the Rebbe is transmitting to you the midas, the emunah, the yerushalayim, and the problem you will all experience at one point or another when you go to college, as I did. You'll meet incredibly brilliant, knowledgeable professors and teachers, and they will be imparting to you knowledge, and at a certain point you'll realize that as human beings, some of them are really, I'm not quite sure what word to use politely, but they're not people that should be a role model for you. They may be moral lives, and they're also apikosim, and sometimes they're very cruel and egomaniacs of various sorts. They've never worked on their midas, they've never worked on their emunah, they've never had yerushalayim, and you're getting knowledge from them. So in the academic world, it's purely knowledge. Incidentally, when the Maharal says you can learn from their books, you must understand that books was the new technology of the 16th century. There'd never been printing before. Everything was all manuscripts. Suddenly there were books. The impact of that on Europe was roughly equivalent to the impact of the internet on the world in our century. Suddenly, learning was available at a level that had never been imagined before. Imagine every town or every village had maybe half a dozen manuscripts owned by wealthy people, maybe a few manuscripts here and there. Suddenly everybody had on their desk a book, a sefer. Everybody had Sfarah. This was unheard of and unthinkable beforehand. Says the Maharal, put your main efforts into Talmud Torah, because that is the Chochmah Elokis, that is the wisdom of God. And I'm telling you, it comes in 3 flavors: vanilla, chocolate, and strawberry. Right? There's Chukei Chayim, there's Lahovin or Lahaskil, and there's Vahoyer in Ein U'Seres. Every shir you go to, you should be able to tick at least one of those boxes, maybe more. And if you can, then it's been a good experience. If you can't, it's been a waste of time. But this is the process of Talmud Torah. You've all had the privilege of coming to one of the magnificent centers of Talmud Torah here in Eretz Yisrael and in the world. Make the most of it. Absorb the Chochmas HaTorah. Learn the Chukei Chayim. Absorb the Svaros, the Hovin of Haskell, and more than anything else, allow the light of the Torah into your minds, into your neshama, v'hoyer in b'seirosecha, and yirotzim, and please God, all of you should be transformed by your learning experience, and every one of you can become a transmitter of Torah to your families, to your society, to wherever you're going to continue to after this yeshiva, and Bez Hashem, we should all meet again and learn more Torah together in good health for many years to come. Amen.